I don't think that the public is being given good choices. The Democrats are going to nominate whoever they're going to nominate, and they're going to be hopelessly leftist. They're going to be right out of the Saul Alinsky playbook. And if the Republican Party establishment has no interest in finding or nurturing another conservative leader, which is the only way they're going to really win and have a mandate and revive the country. If they're not going to do that, then we're going to continue to have talks and discussions like this for the rest of our lives. And the subhead of a conversation that we're having now could be called What If? And the Republicans are going to continue to be the what if party if they continue to try to destroy every conservative that has a chance of winning in the primaries, which is what they're setting up to do again. The answer to what's wrong in this country is conservatism. And even now, I've got a story in the stack about reform conservatives who believe we've got to stop talking about tax cuts and we've got to stop talking about a smaller government. I'm sorry, there is no other subject but smaller government right now. The problems that we have are directly related to an out-of-control government and people who want to be in charge of one. There is no solution that includes people from a different party who think they can run a bigger government smarter, which is what seems to be the Republican position. Blue in the face. I am reminding everybody that the blueprint for the solutions to what ails us is right in front of everybody's face. And it involves and it includes winning. And why people don't want to win being conservative is a very, well, it's maddening, frustrating, and all that, but it's also factual, apparently. We have an out-of-control government. We have an out-of-control amount of spending. We have no accountability to anything going on. And the solution is smarter people running it. Now, let me tackle another question. Because I get this all the time. Well, Rush, you keep talking about Reagan and all of that. But, you know, Reagan, era of Reagan's over so long ago or whatever. You know, the question is, how did Reagan overcome the media? The media hated Reagan as much as they hate Bush. The media hated Reagan as much as they've hated Nixon. And yet you've heard that, yeah, well, but Reagan, he had this charisma. He was able to speak directly to the American people. He was able to go over the heads of the media and speak to the people unfiltered. True, but that's not why Reagan succeeded. It all comes down to the same thing: substance and reality versus spin, PR, buzz, and myth. The end result: look at what happened when Reagan was president. The economy grew like gangbusters. I don't care what the media is saying. The reality was the economy was great. We were vanquishing communist foes, foreign policy. I mean, the point here is the way you overcome the media is with success on the ground. But you don't vie for a buzz success or a PR success. You don't try to have success that's defined by persuading as many people as possible you're successful. You define success by being successful. Implementing policies that work, that really benefited people because they helped themselves. The reason Reagan was able to overcome the media is because his policies revived a country which was in as bad a shape in the latter 70s as it is now, which is precisely what we need again. We don't need PR tactics to try to convince the media we're not mean or bad. We don't need tactics to get the media fooled. We just need somebody who is unabashedly and unafraidly conservative, who will implement policies that will work and will bring actual positive results to people's lives. And then it doesn't matter what the media says. They'll look like buffoons, like they did in the 80s. It's just, it's substance over symbolism, reality over buzz. That's all it is. I want to expand on this, something I was just making, point of just making. Substance over spin, substance over reality. Now, I must say, I'm going to acknowledge, I realize how seductive spin is to people. I know how seductive buzz is. I know plenty of people who would be totally satisfied if the buzz was that they were really profoundly successful when they weren't. Because they would think people thought they were, and that's all that would matter. One of the Republicans' big problems right now is that the Democrats define us. Democrats tell us what they're about, and the Democrats tell everybody what we're about. Buzz. We don't have any reality to counter it. We don't have any substance to counter it. So what they say about us sticks. Well, not us, but I mean the Republicans in Washington. What they say about them sticks. There is no substance. There is no... All there is an ongoing battle to win the PR bar, a battle, the buzz battle, the spin battle, if you will. It seems like that's all anything is anymore. That substance and reality never matter, and some people think they never have. But I want to reiterate, Ronald Reagan was a hugely successful president by anybody's definition, so much so that the history revisionists began even before he had concluded his first term. But despite what they said, he was hugely successful. He was successful on economic matters, foreign policy grounds. Despite what the media tried and did, the people could see it. The people lived it themselves. And as quaint and as old-fashioned and maybe out of touch as it sounds, I believe that's how you neutralize the media. You institute policies that grow the economy, that limit government, strengthen national security, have things that actually do this. Reagan had to fight like hell for the Republican nomination. He had to fight through the Republican establishment just to have a chance to appear on the ballot. Remember what happened at the Republican convention, Kansas City, in 1976. It was not a cakewalk, is the point. It was an ongoing battle. Republican establishment, then as now, was opposed to Reaganism, conservatism. It was only after he won that they began to be a bunch of hangers-on. And it was near the end of his term. They couldn't wait to get rid of it and resume their normal posture. Now, let me give you two examples. A-B comparison, as I like to say. I have been chronicling on this program for the past year the real, substantive, overwhelming success of Scott Walker in Wisconsin. Scott Walker is a conservative. He is a Reaganite conservative. He has beaten back every liberal attempt to destroy him. How? The media wasn't on his side. He didn't have a PR firm doing his bidding. There were Democrats and media and other leftists trying to intimidate him, threaten him and his family. Today, Wisconsin, I've got the story somewhere here in the stack. It's a profound story. Should have found it during the break. It is a story of how Wisconsin is on the way to becoming red. Now, it isn't. It isn't red, but the dramatic change in Wisconsin is profound, and it's based on substance and based on reality. And yet, and by the way, it is the antithesis. What Scott Walker has done to revive that state, budget surplus, income tax cuts, income tax refunds and rebates, what he has done gets no attention within the Republican Party per se, no attention in the mainstream media. In fact, all the attention in the mainstream media when it comes to Republican governors right now happens to be on Governor Christie, whose state is a mess. Chris Christie, however, remains loved and adored by the drive-by media. In comparison, they're still trying to take him out, I understand, but it is an amazing contrast or comparison. The states of Wisconsin and the states of New Jersey, and a genuine conservative governor who has literally wrested that state from Democrat control. With substance, reality, policies that have indeed changed for the better people's lives. They have how many recall efforts on Scott Walker that have failed? So my question is, how come the media wasn't able to destroy him? Well, it's results. It's exactly right. Why haven't all of the dollars that have been spent to destroy Scott Walker succeeded? Because the reality is he is a hugely successful governor. And he has fixed a lot of things that were broken in that state. And I've said, I don't know how many times, Scott Walker and his governorship ought to be the modern-day blueprint for the Republican Party on how to win. How to win in other states, how to win the presidency, and then after they do that, how to fix what's wrong with the country. A conservative triumphing and winning in Wisconsin is huge. That was one of the bluest of blue states. It's home to some of the most fringe left-wing radical movements that there are in this country. And they weren't able to beat Scott Walker, and 2 recall efforts failed miserably. And yet, look where the buzz is. Look where all of the happy talk is. Look where all of the PR is. Look where all the so-called action is. Chris Christie, who went on The Tonight Show, or is going to go on The Tonight Show. Chris Christie, who once spoke to Bruce Springsteen. Take your pick. I mean, throw your own example or story into the mix, and you have the contrast. Now, my point is, you might say, Scott Walker, nobody cares about Scott Walker. Well, the people of Wisconsin know about Scott Walker, and the people living there have elected him and have fought against efforts to recall him. He's had to fight like hell. It has not been easy, but it's the blueprint. It's and I've been interviewing him for the Limbaugh letter. I've been chronicling this. I have been pointing this out to people. When he survived the most recent recall and when he announced the latest budget, which included tax cuts, a budget surplus, I said this should be the biggest story in the Republican Party today. And it was right before the Republican Governors Convention. And you still, if you didn't hear about it on this program, you didn't hear about it.